It was 1985 when John Matkowski and friend John Huckert settled into a new home in Los Angeles. They had found the perfect house and looked forward to a long and enjoyable residence there. But soon they began to sense that there was something else about the house that stirred strong feelings in them that they might not be alone. Starting to entertain the thought that the house might be haunted, and hearing about spirit photography, his friend John Huckert's Polaroid camera was used to take some random shots to see if anything anomalous might appear on them. What occurred as the photos developed would spark conjecture, debate, and eventually pure disbelief at the results. As John Huckert was sitting alone in the house one afternoon, the bathroom door opened by itself. He took a Polaroid camera his father had given him for Christmas and took a picture. Nothing revealed itself, so Huckert, feeling kind of silly about it at the time, just went back to working. He then experienced an odd sense that compelled him to look up, and when he did, he saw the door open again, this time with a bit more intent. He nervously walked to the door, all the while feeling a kind of tingling sensation in the air. He took another photo, and then, calming himself, took a third. As he watched it develop, he saw what was on film was the stereotypical version of a ghost. Large eyes, open mouth, and the wispy quality of it floating in the air. Now feeling even more anxious, he entertained the idea that his dad had somehow messed around with the camera, and this was the result. So to test it, he took another picture. A similar image formed, but this time the figure was larger, as if moving toward him. And with that, the apprehension grew, despite his efforts to rationalize the entire thing. When Matkowski got home, Huckert asked him to look at the photos to get his own thoughts. While Matkowski was impressed with what he saw, he assumed Huckert was just fooling around with camera settings. Huckert assured him he was not, and told Matkowski to take some photos himself. As Huckert stood in front of the bathroom door, Matkowski snapped off a picture, and when it developed, a form not unlike what Huckert had captured earlier was looming over him, but even larger and more distorted. They continued to take shots until they eventually ran out of film. After a month of staring at and trying to discern what was happening in the pictures, they decided to purchase more film to determine whether the previous package might have been somehow defective, and perhaps that would bring all their uncertainty to an end. But each time they used the camera, they would feel a kind of anxiousness that would result in that now familiar tingling sensation, goosebumps, or a warm feeling they described almost like having a sunburn. Over a period of 3 or 4 months, they continued to take photos, with some displaying anomalies and others resembling seemingly normal snapshots. At first, fearing people might think they were a bit crazy, they eventually told some friends what was happening and invited them over to show them the pictures. The guests inundated them with questions and opinions, so it was determined they should take photos in their presence. Going with the assumption that this was the work of a ghost, one of the guests asked, "Are you here now?" and a picture was taken. As it started to develop, the fuzzy image began to form into a clear photo, but with a bizarre twist. The word "yes" appeared on the picture in scratchy, unsteady writing. As you might expect, this instantly freaked everyone out. In a combined state of excitement, wonder, and trepidation, they continued to ask questions while taking more photos. At one point, someone grabbed the camera and asked, "Are you a good ghost or a bad ghost?" With that, one word formed: friend. Huckett then asked what their house guest's name was, and the surname Wright appeared on film. When it was asked where he went when he wasn't there, the response was Flux. Some time had passed when it was inquired as to what Wright's presence in the home was all about. The Latin words Italia corpus delicti appeared on the photo. Translated, it means murder victim. John Murkowski would go on to research whether there were any murders associated with the house, but he came up empty, which only furthered their confusion as to what was going on. Thrilled that others were able to see this firsthand and how it had changed them all on a profound level, Huckert said he began to question all that he once thought about life and the world he lived in. There initially was no thought of taking the phenomena public, but one night while watching the Fox network show Sightings, Matkowski watched as what was deemed an actual ghost photo came up on the screen. Not believing it and knowing what they had was the real deal, they sent a photo into the Sightings show. Soon after that, they were contacted by producers who wanted to visit the home and do an hour-long satellite feed. Joining them was parapsychologist Kerry Gaynor, who worked on the famous Entity case. A host of researchers participated in the Sightings investigation, including friends of the men who had visited the house previously. Every step of the process was documented on film. The episode became one of the most watched and talked about in the series. The camera was thoroughly examined, as were the prior photographs taken, over 100 in all. Unopened, sealed packages of film were sent directly from Polaroid, and a chain of custody was maintained to ensure none were tampered with. The opening of the new boxes was video documented and logged. Martha Elkin was the first to snap a photo and receive a response. As she asked if the spirits there were good or bad, the resulting picture displayed the message, "There are numerous remedial lemures." Lemures, in Roman mythology, were the night-walking spirits of the dead. Martha then asked another question before taking her next photo. "Will you be with them for a long time?" Another message in Latin appeared. Translated, it means, "All this is over now." Other photos were taken that revealed nothing out of the ordinary, but one again was created in Latin. The question concerned the technology being used today and what was the impression of it from his own time. The response was ad literam, which translated is "to the letter." Then another question was posed, "Are you here because of us or the house itself?" To which the response 45 seconds later was genius loci, which translated means guardian spirit of a man or place. All of this took place in full view of approximately 15 to 20 people. A special effects expert from the Brooks Institute of Photography was also on site, and upon cursory examination could not determine if the results were legitimate or an elaborate hoax. So the camera and film were sent to Brooks Institute and more closely examined by Edson Williams, the on-site expert. He offered one explanation to do with fibers, as the writing resembled elements of the use of such material. Testing this possibility, he managed to recreate something very similar to what was seen on the Polaroid films, but the process took an hour to complete and involved exposing the film. The pictures taken at the house developed in 45 seconds, and not only done by certain individuals. Sightings then traveled to the Polaroid Corporation in Waltham, Mass., where show host Tim White spoke with photo expert Howard Warzo. Warzo admitted this was something they had never encountered before, even with film with a higher sensitivity than this brand. He went on to say after watching the documentation done at the house, that if indeed the film used came from the factory and was unsealed, then it's likely that something extraordinary was taking place. Matkowski and Huckert also submitted the voice analysis test to determine whether they were being truthful in their responses. No deception was detected, and no reasonable explanation could be found for why or how the writing appeared. Psychic Peter James was also invited in to be part of the broadcast to get his own impressions. He felt that an area near the bedroom was likely the entry point for the spirits, and went on to name a host of them that regularly visited the house. With remarkable claims come remarkable attempts to disprove or debunk those claims, and Matkowski and Huckert ran the gamut of theories. One being a small person in their basement typing responses on a computer, with them being projected by lasers hidden throughout the house that instantly imprint on the photo. Writing on the back of the photos was also ruled out, when doing so looked nothing like what was actually appearing on the front, which also doesn't explain why others took photos with neither of the Johns touching the apparatus in any way. Murkowski and Huckert are both writers by trade and don't give many interviews anymore, nor accept offers of cash from people wanting to come into the house to take their own photos. In moments of professional self-doubt, they claim messages were given to them by Wright to continue to persevere, with messages like, "Dreams and destiny merge." John Murkowski also discovered that the writings only appeared on the Polaroid Spectra camera with the Spectra film, but not others, and believes it was something in the chemical makeup of that specific type of film that allowed the spirit images to come through. But they stopped taking pictures after Polaroid discontinued producing Spectra films. This case was also a subject of the sci-fi series Fact or Faked, as well as in a segment of Netflix, Surviving Death.